It was supposed to be a meeting, not a confession. Room 213 of the Palisade Hotel was sterile, unremarkable. The kind of place where secrets went to die quietly. I chose it because it was anonymous, beige carpet, static hum, no view. Perfect for what I needed to do. Jonas Wexler would arrive at 9. I'd spent the day memorizing how not to tremble. He was my former professor, my almost lover, my betrayer. Though the order of those things shifted depending on how much whiskey I'd had. We hadn't seen each other in 4 years. Not since he published my research under his name and called it mentorship. When the article won an award, he sent a single text, "We made it." I deleted it, then rewrote it in my head every night for months. Now, at 37, I'd learned to wear composure like a second skin. My life was smaller but sharper, stripped of illusion. The air in the room felt expectant. Charged the way it does before a storm or a confession you can't retract. I poured 2 glasses of whiskey and waited. When he arrived, he looked older but not diminished, just worn in the way guilt can polish a man. "You look the same," he said. I smiled. "You don't." He laughed softly, already uneasy. That was good. I wanted him unsettled. "You said you wanted to talk," he said, taking the chair across from me. "About the past." I nodded. "It's time someone did." He reached for the drink. "Still neat?" I asked. "Always." His hand brushed mine by accident, or maybe on purpose. The contact was electric, unpleasant. For a moment I remembered what it was like to admire him. To want to be seen by someone who saw everything only in terms of usefulness. Then I remembered what he'd taken. The feeling vanished. I handed him a folder. Inside were copies of old emails, drafts, timestamps, all proof of what he'd stolen. He leafed through them, slower than necessary. "I didn't think you kept these," he said. "You taught me to document everything," I replied. "You were a good teacher." His jaw tightened. "You could have come to me. We could have shared credit." "You mean I could have accepted my name in the acknowledgements?" I said. "The student who inspired you." He leaned back, eyes tired. "You're still angry." I smiled. "I'm still awake." We sat in silence. Outside, the rain started, tapping the window in irregular beats. He sighed. "You didn't ask me here to fight. What do you want?" "I want you to listen." "To what?" "To the truth." I pressed play on the small recorder beside the bed. His voice filled the room, his voice from years ago, laughing. Instructing me to send him drafts from my thesis, promising we'd publish together. Then the later ones, more formal, where he told his editor it was his work alone. His expression didn't change, not immediately. But when he realized how thorough it was, how patient I'd been, the mask cracked. "You recorded me," he said. "You think I didn't know what you were doing?" I shrugged. "I learned from the best." He stood abruptly. "You can't release this." "Already did," I said. "Tonight. Every file, every recording, every correspondence. Scheduled for distribution to every university that still invites you to speak about ethics." He froze. "Why tell me then?" "Because I wanted to see if you'd apologize before it was too late." "And if I had?" "I would have cancelled the upload." He laughed bitterly. "You wanted mercy. I wanted symmetry." The thunder outside punctuated the silence between us. He stared at the recorder, then at me. "You've destroyed me. Only the part that was never yours." He sank into the chair, the fight leaving his shoulders. "I cared about you," he said softly. "You know that, don't you?" I almost believed him. Then I remembered the way he used to say we made it. I stood, gathering my coat. Room 213, I said, was the number on your office door. I thought it would make things poetic. When I left, he didn't move. The rain had grown heavier, blurring the streetlights into streaks of gold. As I passed the lobby, the night clerk nodded at me politely, unaware that upstairs, a man's career had just ended in the time it takes to finish a drink. Hours later, back at my apartment, I checked the upload. Complete. I poured another glass of whiskey and stared at the reflection in the dark window. For a second, I thought I saw him standing behind me. I blinked. Only me, older, colder, but still awake. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed once. A message with no sender. You forgot to ask who really wrote the acknowledgements. The text deleted itself before I could reply. By the time dawn crawled across the blinds of room 213, the air had turned to static. The rain had stopped, leaving the windows streaked like fingerprints. I hadn't slept. I'd spent the night watching the message that deleted itself, over and over, trying to recall the words before they dissolved. You forgot to ask who really wrote the acknowledgements. It was his voice. I could almost hear the way he would have said it, half amusement, half warning. I checked the upload logs again. Everything had gone through. Every file, every recording, replicated on more servers than I could erase. Still, the message stayed like a splinter in the brain. At 8 a.m., the hotel phone rang once and stopped. A courtesy call? A glitch? I let the silence settle, then opened the door. No one in the hall, just a small envelope slid beneath the carpet edge. Inside, a single flash drive and a note in handwriting that looked like mine. Play it before you leave. The screen lit up blue when I plugged it in. Video. The room was familiar, my old office, years ago. The same one where he used to sit across from me during the late nights of editing. In the frame, I was the one speaking. I looked younger, unscarred. The research must credit both of us, I was saying. Then he replied from off camera, voice low, deliberate, it will. In the acknowledgements. The younger me smiled. Deal. I stopped the playback, stomach turning. The file's metadata was current, last edited 3 hours ago. I hadn't been near that computer in 4 years. The system recognized my login, my voice, my ID. The timestamp proved I'd been complicit in the lie I'd built my revenge on. Either he'd forged it with the precision of a god, or I had forgotten who I was when I started the fire. The lights flickered, the monitor dimmed to black. For a moment, my reflection stayed lit where the screen had been. Lips moving even though I hadn't spoken. You made me write it, the reflection whispered. You needed to believe you were innocent. I grabbed the drive and threw it into the sink, turned on the tap. Watched the plastic warp under the water until it cracked. Steam rose, smelling faintly of burned metal and whiskey. When I looked back at the mirror above the desk, the condensation had drawn a sentence across it. Symmetry isn't justice. It's recursion. Downstairs, the lobby clerk asked if I'd enjoyed my stay. Room 213, he said, checking the register. Strange. That room's been vacant all night. I didn't argue. I walked out into the washed-out morning. Shoes sinking into puddles that reflected nothing. Somewhere in the city, a server kept humming, a low, steady sound like breathing. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear him whisper from inside it, "We made it." 3 days after leaving the Palisade, I checked into another hotel under a name that didn't belong to me. The clerk didn't ask for ID, he looked tired enough to recognize desperation. The room smelled of lemon polish and static, smaller than 213 but just as anonymous. I told myself I'd sleep, but insomnia had grown into a habit. Every creak of the radiator sounded like a voice starting a sentence and thinking better of it. I tried to convince myself that what happened in that room, the message, the video, the reflection that spoke, was just the leftover tremor of revenge. The body's inability to adjust to closure. But closure isn't real. It's a story we tell when we run out of language for grief. That night, I woke to the sound of someone knocking. 3 slow, deliberate taps. I froze. The clock said 3:17 a.m. I waited for a fourth, but it didn't come. I checked the peephole, empty hallway. I turned back and saw the envelope already on the floor. The same cream color, the same neat handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper with the Palisades logo faintly embossed across it. The acknowledgements were written by both of us. You just forgot which side of the page you were on. The words seemed to shift when I read them aloud. For a moment, the pronouns changed. We forgot which side of the page we were on. I tore it in half, then quarters, flushed it down the toilet. But the words clung behind my eyelids every time I blinked. By morning, the hotel had erased my booking. The front desk claimed I'd never checked in. My name wasn't on the ledger, my payment unrecorded. The key card in my pocket had no logo, just the number 213 printed faintly across its surface. I walked outside, into a city that felt slightly misaligned. As if someone had redrawn it from memory. Street signs misspelled by one letter, faces too symmetrical to be real. Every passerby looked faintly familiar, a repetition of a face I'd once trusted. On a digital billboard above a bank, an ad for a new book flickered, his name across the cover. The title Midnight Confessions, Ethics and Ownership in the Digital Age. The promotional clip played soundlessly, but I could see him on stage, smiling. Gesturing toward an unseen audience. When the screen glitched for a second, my face appeared beside his, smiling too. I stumbled backward, blinking. The crowd around me didn't notice. The image returned to normal, just him, alone, holding a copy of the book. I found an internet cafe nearby, one of the few left. The computers were old, humming like ghosts. I searched the book's title. It existed, published yesterday. Co-authored. My name beside his. I clicked the link. The first paragraph began. She asked me to meet her in room 213. She said it was for forgiveness. It was for revenge. I forgave her anyway. The air went cold. I scrolled faster. Every detail was correct. The whiskey, the folder, the recording, except the ending. In his version, I had begged for his absolution, said I doctored the files to make him pay. That guilt was the only thing I'd ever been good at. I wanted to laugh, but it came out as a cough. On the cafe wall, a mirror hung slightly crooked. My reflection stared back, half a second late. Lips forming the words written on the book cover. We made it. When I turned, the room was empty. Only the hum of old machines remained, steady and patient. Waiting for someone to tell the story again. By the 4th week, the city had begun to mimic the story I'd written. The book tour interviews played on every public screen. His voice narrating the version where I was the liar. The hysterical ex-student who forged proof out of obsession. People believed him, of course. The truth always sounds unstable next to confidence. I'd lost jobs before, lost friends, but losing narrative, that was the real death. I became a ghost in my own biography. I rented a room near the university district, across from his old office. Some nights I'd see the light on inside and imagine him still there. Rehearsing his lectures on integrity. But sometimes I'd see a second figure, a woman, standing beside him. Her face turned toward the window, too still to be real. I tried to tell myself she was a student, or his guilt-given shape. Still, I watched. I couldn't help it. Then one evening, I received an email from an address that shouldn't exist anymore. jonas.wexler@palisade.edu. The subject line read, "Midnight Confession, Second Draft." The attachment was a transcript, but not of our meeting. It was something else entirely, a conversation between him and me, dated next week. The file began with my voice, "You're not supposed to be here." His voice answered, calm, distant, "Neither are you." The rest was noise, fragments of words layered over static, a rhythm like breathing or typing. At the bottom of the file, a single line repeated. Room 213 reopens when you remember what really happened. The hotel had closed months ago. I knew because I'd checked, twice, maybe 3 times. The building had been sold, scheduled for demolition. Still, that night when I passed through downtown, I saw its lights on. No name on the sign, no clerk in the lobby, but the elevator worked. I told myself I just wanted to confirm it was real. The door to 213 opened without my key. The room was exactly as I'd left it, 2 glasses, the folder on the table. The faint smell of whiskey and rain. Only one difference, the recorder was still on, its red light blinking, waiting. I pressed play. My voice filled the air. I released everything, it said. Then his voice, steady, too steady, "I know. You were supposed to." I froze. The sound of rain started outside, though the forecast had promised clear skies. The recording continued, voices overlapping now, mine and his, indistinguishable. Blending until I couldn't tell who had spoken first. "Symmetry isn't justice," one voice said. "It's recursion," said the other. The red light blinked faster. The reflection in the dark window moved before I did. And for the first time, I understood. Maybe there had never been 2 of us in that room. Maybe the story had always needed both versions to survive. The light on the recorder turned off. The rain stopped. Somewhere in the hall, another door opened, slow and deliberate, like an invitation. I didn't move. The silence between us was perfect, almost tender. By the 5th night, the story had started to rewrite itself. News outlets published think pieces about the unreliable woman of room 213. An archetype born from obsession. My name trended for 48 hours, paired with headlines questioning my sanity. Every photo of me online had been retouched, eyes slightly wider, smile sharper. The sort of expression people expect from someone who might burn her own life for attention. The world had chosen its version. I was the villain who thought she was the victim. I stopped leaving the apartment. The walls hummed softly, the way hotel walls do when another room breathes behind them. I unplugged everything, phone, laptop, lamps, but the hum stayed. Then, around 3:17 a.m., the same hour as always, my screen lit up on its own. No power. No Wi-Fi. Just that familiar blue glow. The words appeared one at a time. The acknowledgements were never finished. A video window opened before I could move. Room 213 again, flickering like a memory too replayed. The camera faced the bed this time. 2 glasses of whiskey, a folder, and me, sitting there, head bowed, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then Jonas entered. Only it wasn't him. It was me again, older, harder, dressed like I was now. She sat across from the younger me, poured the drinks, and smiled. "You wanted revenge," she said. "You got recursion." The younger version looked up. Are you real? Does it matter? The older me replied. He stopped existing the moment you made him the story. Now it's just us. The footage distorted. The younger me raised the glass and drank. The older one mirrored her exactly. When the video froze, both pairs of eyes turned toward the camera, toward me, and the screen went black. I ran to the bathroom sink and splashed water on my face. The mirror stayed fogged. In it, I saw not one reflection but two, slightly out of sync. One smiled when I didn't. You needed him to betray you, it said. Otherwise you'd never have written anything worth remembering. The hum in the apartment grew louder, pulsing with my heartbeat. The wallpaper shimmered faintly, and beneath the surface, I could see numbers moving like blood through veins, timestamps, file names. Fragments of dialogue looping endlessly. Stop, I whispered. It's over. The other reflection tilted its head. You don't end a confession, it said. You just start the next draft. The power cut out. Only the recorder light stayed red, blinking steadily. I hadn't brought it home. I hadn't taken anything from that room. Still, there it was on the table, waiting. I pressed play. My voice filled the darkness. We made it. And then his voice, or mine, or both, answered, yes. Again. When the lights came back, the apartment was empty. The walls were clean, the hum gone. But on my desk lay a hotel keycard. Room 213. The date printed on it was tomorrow.